What's up, nation? Today we are talking about a very recent interview with Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa around his plans with the rest of the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, and specifically how long they would plan to support software on this console, as clearly the writing is on the wall. We're past 6.5 years of the Switch being sold and available on the market, and there are tons of rumors and reports suggesting that not only are developer kits out there and being shown off behind closed doors to numerous devs within the industry, but that in fact 2024 is the year that Nintendo is set to launch the successor to the console, and there will no doubt be a lot of debatable perspectives that come out of this article, because if you're somebody who thinks the Switch has a lot left in its tank and that it will be supported for years and years to come, you may view this statement one way, whereas if you actually do believe that yes, Nintendo is indeed at the point in the console's life cycle that they are ready to ramp up production on the next gen hardware, and you believe like I do that a lot of the ports and remasters are a telltale sign that Nintendo is entering the end of the Nintendo Switch's generation, well then these comments may mean something very different to you. But we first have to get on the same page with the exact breakdown of this article, and before we do that, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you want to stay up to date with all of the next gen Nintendo Switch news. And we now have to hop over to VGC, where you can see the following article, which reads, Nintendo's president says it will continue to support Switch next year. The company president says games are planned for the fiscal year ending March 2025. In a new interview with Nikkei, Shuntaro Furukawa was asked if the life cycle of the Switch could be expanded further than the 6.5 years it's already been on sale. Furukawa replied that Nintendo would continue to focus on the Switch until the end of the current fiscal year ending March 2024, and would continue to support the console with software in the following fiscal year ending March 2025. We are still working on software for the Switch for fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, Furukawa said. In the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024, we hope to sustain the momentum of Zelda and the Super Mario Bros. Movie with focus on the holiday sales season. As for hardware, we will maximize not only new demand for hardware, but also for those buying second consoles and replacements. Currently, Princess Peach Showtime is due for release on Switch in March 2024, right before the end of the fiscal year. The only known Switch games set to release after are Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Nintendo is yet to officially comment on plans for its next console. However, according to VGC sources, the company has dispatched Switch 2 development kits to key partners with a launch plan for the second half of 2024. The platform holder also showed off tech demos for its Switch successor behind closed doors at Gamescom, it's understood. The release of the Switch successor naturally doesn't mean support for the Switch will immediately end. Nintendo continued to support the 3DS with software after the launch of the Switch. So again, depending on how you want to look at it, you could take that statement to mean, well, until the end of fiscal year 2025, we will actually see all of Nintendo's focus on the current gen Nintendo Switch console, and that is not what Furukawa said at all. And even in VGC's own interpretation of it, they said focus on Nintendo Switch software in fiscal year ending March 2024 and continue to support in 2025. Whether or not that was inferred by Furukawa or not remains up for debate and speculation. You got to remember that these translations are not perfect at the end of the day, but one thing that I think you can confidently say is that Nintendo is at a very different point with the success of the Switch and the kind of legs that it has to stand on compared to consoles generations past, where we've seen them really kind of ramp down support and titles towards the end of their console generations entirely just to shift support to the new console. I don't think we're going to have the Switch completely drop off of a cliff here and not continue to be a viable option on the marketplace sold alongside of the next generation hardware. In fact, I think that it would be very smart for Nintendo to potentially offer some kind of price discount on the current family of consoles to get it in as many hands of consumers as possible. When you're talking about a base model Switch being sold for something like $250 or even below that, maybe they can go to $199. Well, at that point, you might be buying it on any given day that you walk into a game store and realize the exciting amount of titles that you could play on that base console, even though there's a brand new $400 Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it will be called being sold alongside of it. You also can't take these comments to be really anything different than what we already know in terms of what the company is planning, because if you just look at what Furukawa has said, it actually aligns with games that they already have announced in 2024 which passes the fiscal year 2024, which ends March 31st, 2024. We know that there are games past that window. As VGC pointed out in their article, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD has a 2024 time slot, but we don't know the release date of that game yet. And we do know that Princess Peach Showtime is out in March 22nd of 2024, which would lead you to believe that Luigi's Mansion HD is going to launch past that. We also have Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, yet another port remaster game that we also see Nintendo strategically stick to in the end of their console generation's life cycles, because you can shift their major developers to do the new projects for the new console to get the launch lineup up and running for when they throw that thing on retail shelves. And you probably also noticed that Paper Mario Thousand Year Door has a 2024 time slot, but no month attached to it, which could lead you to believe it's either a summer title, as we see a lot of Paper Mario games launch in the summertime, or it could be even later into the year of 2024. But regardless, as long as it launches after March of next year, which you would expect it to do, it is technically launching in fiscal year 2025. I also think it's likely that Nintendo will announce new titles at the upcoming February Nintendo Direct that we should expect to see them hold, and it's probably going to have even more smaller projects like this for the current generation Switch. And so it would be a true statement for Furukawa to say they're going to continue to support Switch software through fiscal year 2025. Now, one thing I do think you have to keep in mind with Nintendo is, while some fans would love to think that the Nintendo Switch 2 will launch and we'll still see all of the major AAA first-party games that make it to that console also launch day and date on the Switch, I don't necessarily think that'll be the case. We might have one or two cross-generational titles. Maybe it's Metroid Prime 4, and that's the reason they've been holding it back so long. They wanted to make that game a visual showpiece in terms of what the next generation Switch can do, and that will launch on both consoles because it's been around and talked about for so long, and they technically revealed it for the Nintendo Switch, so they may want to honor it as a cross-gen title. But unlike Sony, where you have comments like "we believe in generations" from Jim Ryan saying that the PS4 to the PS5, many games are only possible with the power of the PlayStation 5, but then the games still come out on both consoles for years and years to come. Unlike Sony, I don't think Nintendo sticks to that kind of strategy. In fact, if you look at their history, especially when it comes to a home console perspective, it's often a Zelda game that may go cross-gen, but then they just do a hard cutoff, and outside of third-party games that are coming out on the previous generation console, there's really no support from them. I don't necessarily think they will do that hard of a stop with the Switch due to the success of it and the 130 plus million unit install base that is out there today, but I do think that they will absolutely want to push the mass majority of players to the brand new console hardware. And so when it comes to the new 3D Mario, I don't anticipate that being a cross-gen title. In fact, I think it's the big reason why you have to upgrade your hardware and get the new console in order to experience that Switch 2 console exclusive game. I think you'll see Nintendo do that quicker than just about any other company in gaming right now, because that's just how they handle console generations, and they're really good at getting their consumer base to try to go out and upgrade as soon as possible, unless if your name is the Wii U coming off the heels of the Wii. And to be fair, we really have to see Nintendo break the trend of not following up one very successful console generation with a subpar console generation. I think they can break that trend with Switch 2, providing they stick to the hybrid form factor like it's rumored to be, and providing that a lot of the exciting information we've heard around the specs and what this thing can do with DLSS technology. I think they're poised and ready to go for a good console launch and to carry the momentum forward into next generation. But I also think that these comments are really just an open and shut case of Nintendo's not going to immediately pull the plug on the Switch that we have today. We will likely have a number of first-party games that are launched cross-generation, or you may even just have versions of games that come out on the Switch, but they also work on the Switch 2 via backwards compatibility, assuming that is a feature that will be planned for and baked in. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on this interview from President Shuntaro Furukawa. Do you think it says anything in terms of Nintendo's broader plans with their next-gen software lineup? Do you think that we actually do see a lot of Switch support from a first-party perspective, and maybe multiple cross-generational titles like Metroid Prime 4, the new 3D Mario game, and maybe even a Donkey Kong game thrown in there, actually getting support for both consoles? Or do you think there may be one or two titles, but for the most part, Nintendo will likely do that traditional hard stop where they just start only putting out the Switch 2 versions of games when it comes to their major first-party AAA projects. But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.